Dory, we can sort it out. So, peace. Let's find out if that's true. Dr. Harsha De Silva, good evening. Is that true?
I doubt it, because I mean I'm not privy to all the numbers that Mr. Krabal is privy to, and I know he said that at the Asia Securities conference yesterday, and that there is no need really to consider IMF, and that there will be enough inflows of US dollars into the market, and that there will be enough and more foreign direct investments, and that will be fine.
These are wonderful words, but and like you say, neither am I privileged to know where these dollars are going to fly in from. But clearly, the international rating agencies are of the same view, because they too have no confidence in the plan, or the plan isn't detailed enough for them to make a considered decision. Therefore, we're downgraded to CCC+. Junk status.
We are in deep junk territory, Faraz.
Yeah.
We've never been here before. You know, one more notch and then we are in real trouble. Right? I mean, okay, the situation is as follows. We have a large amount of debt to be repaid.
Yeah.
Some of that debt is in LKR. Some of that debt is in USD and other Euro and JPY and other currencies. Now, looking at the central bank's last week report, it shows that there will be $6 billion of $6 billion net drain on the reserves.
When?
For the next 12 months.
Right.
Meaning debt that we need to repay in the next 12 months. So much in the first month.
So we've got that.
We know how much that is.
Right.
That includes government of Sri Lanka debt, that includes private debt, that includes various other public corporations and so on, but that is the amount we require.
Right.
Now, besides that, we have other obligations as well. For instance, some of the swaps that are coming due, assuming that those swaps will be sort of renegotiated.
Right.
And there is that famous $1 billion Fed repo.
Right.
Right? And assuming that can also be repoed again.
Which is in simple common language, it just means a postponement of the inevitable payment.
That's right. So we roll them over. Assume we roll them over. We got that amount that I said earlier that needs to be paid. Now, on top of that, there is going to be a deficit in the current account, which means we export certain number of items out. We import some things in. Yes, we have restricted imports. We have cut out almost all new private vehicles and so on. Yet we have a fairly large import bill. Yes, oil prices were down, so therefore we had a bit of a breather. But now, as you know, last week oil prices have begun to rise again, and it's crossed the $50 a barrel mark. All of that means we are going to have a deficit, perhaps $1.5 billion, which means after adding the revenue that we are getting from expats sending money in.
And our exports?
Everything included, right? Except for debt that we would have otherwise taken in terms of international sovereign bonds and so on.
Yeah.
So we have about say $7.5 billion that we require in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Now we have about $5.3 billion in reserves.
Yes.
Of that, about $400 million is actually gold. And you keep away, you know, what we have deposited in the IMF and all that. So you probably have about $4.5 billion in reserves, right? So you can't run down your entire reserve. Suppose we use half of that, right? Say we use $2.5 billion of that, then you still have a hole of about, you know, $5.5 billion, right? Where are you going to get it from? Okay. The government says we will have, like I said earlier, inflows of investment money, foreign direct investment. They are saying, okay, we signed $1 billion agreement with China Harbor and LOLC, and that first phase is $450 million, but that can't happen overnight. That's going to take time. And what that $50 million includes is also import expenditure, right? They're going to bring stuff in, and they're getting very good tax breaks to do that. And then they say, look, there's going to be another tire factory, right? $200 million. Okay, part of that $200 million will go out in expenditure. So what is the net FDI flow into the system in the next 12 months? Can that make up for that remaining $5.5 billion or $5 billion? No way. So what I usually do is to roll over some of what is coming due. Now, we couldn't roll over what came due in October.
Yeah.
And it is not possible to roll over what is coming due in June either. Because if you look at the secondary market yields of our outstanding international sovereign bonds, you will see that the next maturing ISB in June of next year is trading at around 30%, 29% yield, right? And every bond is discounted to such an extent that even our 10-year bonds are going at about under 60 cents to the dollar, right? Which means it is not possible for us to go back to the international markets. So therefore, we have a problem.
What's the way out? What's the quick fix?
Okay, the way I see it, the way most economists see it, the way rating agencies see it, is that we try to renegotiate our short-term maturing debt, right? Say for the next 12 months or 24 months. Now, how do you do that? If it were just simple government-to-government transactions, like for instance with India, you could ask, and Prime Minister, I think the President, asked the Indian side to sort of give us a moratorium for some months. It hasn't really materialized yet, even though they gave us $400 million in a swap. We, I think, have asked the Chinese, and they haven't done that either. Mr. Cabral has been saying, look, we are getting $1.2 billion from China, but we've only got 500, and 700 is coming, and it's coming. It's coming. It hasn't still come. These bondholders, hedge funds, all these people who have invested in these international sovereign bonds are multiple in number. So you can't negotiate with each one of them. Yeah. So you have to have a platform. You have to have somebody bringing those bondholders and the government of Sri Lanka to one table.
To one marketplace.
Yeah, and then sort of negotiate it amongst the different parties. And those parties are going to say, look, you can't just, put the haircut on us, meaning, cut what you are expected to pay us back. You are expected to, have haircuts on your domestic borrowers as well. So it's going to be a really complicated and a difficult negotiation.
Right.
And who can do that negotiation is only the IMF.
Right.
So we all believe, including myself, that it has to be the solution right away.
Thank you for your messages, and we appreciate them all, although some of them cannot be actually asked on air. Please, could you send us some relevant questions so that Dr. Harshidi Silva is here, economist and so on. Now then, is there any quick fix?
No, that's what I said. Either we have to reprofile our debt or restructure our debt. I mean, it's not only us who's facing this complication due to the pandemic. Many countries have. And I think 70-odd countries have gone to the IMF already, and they've sort of helped them out. But we somehow seem to, believe that we are unique, and that we can overcome these problems on our own, by ourselves. But like I said, I'm not privy to all the numbers that the government ministers are. But I would be very surprised if we would have a $5 billion flow of FDI that can be used to settle our debts in the coming 12 months.
How skeptical are you about the announced growth figures or the estimate?
Well, I said here on this show that the second quarter growth I expected to be -17, right? And it came out finally at -16.3. Now the third quarter numbers are at +1.5. Probably that is correct, because if 16.3 came out, right, then 1.5, I don't have any reason to sort of suspect that number. But the fourth quarter is also going to be negative. Fourth quarter is going to be negative. So anyway, for the first 9 months, growth is -5.3. So I'm assuming for the year, it might be around -7. Far away from the plus numbers that...
So your answer is a laugh. On that note, we'll come back to you and discuss that after this short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline Live.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. We're in discussion with Dr. Harshidi Silva of the SJB. Now then, Dr. Harsha, so you're saying that there is no quick fix. How do we get the growth going again? Remember that 62% of our workforce are unskilled. There's a vast vat of people who are daily waged earners. The hotel industry is in trouble. There's only talk of reopening and inviting 500 tourists per day into the country. That it still seems to be very far off.
Yeah, I mean, they have a plan. You see, their plan is basically, what is called modern monetary theory, which even Bernie and AOC, were really big on, and how to give, make sure every American has health care. That was that whole plan. And that's basically going against sort of the orthodoxy of economic theory, what we've learned in sort of college over the years, and what is practiced all over the world. Now, this MMT, or modern monetary theory, says basically the government can spend as much as it wants as long as you pay for it with borrowed rupees or local currency, right? Because the central bank can always print that money and make you, repay those loans. So essentially printing money. So in this theory, there is no real problem of government's inability or government's limitations on creating jobs, right? So, or giving everybody free health care, or giving people samurdhi. Now think about this, right? And the only issue is if too much money is printed, and that is not that money is not going to expand the economy as much as it should to fend off inflation, prices will go up and inflation will happen. And then the theory goes, then the government can actually tax, and this is a funny way of describing tax, is to pull back the money that was printed and essentially put it back in a shredder and destroy the money, so that inflation can be controlled. And therefore, what we need to do is to convert our 50% of foreign debt somehow into local debt, and then our problems will be resolved. So I mean, in economics we always say there is no such thing called a free lunch. But in MMT, or modern monetary theory, which real economists I have thus seen, proofs of, there is a free lunch. As long as what they are saying is there is underutilization of capacity, there are people who are unemployed or people who are underemployed. The government, they say it's immoral, that's the word they use. It's immoral to keep people unemployed when government can actually print money and start, and their favorite is jobs programs, which is what they have started with this 150,000 jobs and so on.
Is that why they're calling elections now, provincial council?
I don't know if they're calling elections or not.
Well, we heard the Prime Minister ask the Elections Commission to have provincial council elections as soon as possible.
But I heard from the inside that they, at Cabinet, they said they didn't want to.
Well, it's another ploy.
No, I mean, if they agreed in Cabinet to have the elections, it would have been headline news, but I haven't seen you speak about it.
That's right.
No, I mean, so you were asking, is there a fix? Is there a plan? So this is the plan.
Right.
But on the one hand, on the other hand, it is going back to import substitution, industrialization, like in the 70s, where you sort of, go back to building tariff walls around this country, right? And protectionism. And then the government then steps in, right? Because now think about this. Why would private sector even bother? Because if the government can provide everything, the government can print money to provide everything, the government can give jobs to everyone, the government can sort out everybody's medical expenses, why would the private sector even bother? So this is a crazy theory, right? But that seems to be the one that these people want to follow.
We have a viewer who's taking issue with saying that how can the 50% of the government debt be transferred to rupees? So
this is the thing, when Indrajit Kumaraswamy was governor, he presented a medium-term debt management strategy. And it is always prudent to keep your external debt at a manageable level, right? And that can be done over a period of time. But now what they are saying is, for instance, this coming year, 2021, not a single dollar of external financing will be used for bridging the deficit. Now they are saying we are immediately going to stop borrowing overseas. Now you've seen that being said, you heard it from so many different people, right? But then that is not practical. You see, and they're saying it not because that is what they want to do, they're saying it because they can no longer borrow. instead of saying, we are in deep, junk territory, they are saying, no, we don't want to borrow, so we will pay back.
So is denial the best form of defense at the moment?
So that is what the recent investment bank said. Denial is not a strategy.
Right.
So denial cannot be a strategy. Strategy must actually have, some workable plan.
And that's it. What about the deficit, the budget deficit? It's 1.5 trillion plus.
See, the thing is this, Faraz. I mean, this is some heterodox theory, right? I mean, so according to this new theory, so budget
everything can be sorted by printing money.
Yeah, the budget deficits don't matter. I mean, I find it
And
odd
inflation?
sitting here and telling you this.
And
because
inflation?
So this is the thing. So what they are saying is, look, the world over, there has been a lot of QE, right? Quantitative easing. Interest rates have fallen. Japan has seen zero interest rates for, almost a decade.
Right.
There is no inflation really, right? So even this week's Economist is about that, right? Will the inflation rise its ugly head again? And that depends on whether your currency is convertible or not. Yes, they are saying, look at America. They have over 100% of GDP deficit. European countries have. Japan has 200%. So why are we worried about this? Why is people, why are people like Harsha De Silva saying, budget deficit is a problem? Why is Faraz Shauketaly asking me that question?
Yes.
Why should it be a problem? So you must, every country is different, right? And we are a small open economy with non-convertible currency, right? If we print money, that money has to be circulating within the borders of this nation, right? You can't even 10 LKR in India. Used to be, I think, at Mustafa's they used to take. I don't know whether they take at Mustafa's anymore, right? But, except for one or two places perhaps, right, this currency is not convertible. So, therefore, just because the Americans do it, we can't do it. Just because the Europeans do it, we can't do it. Just because the Japanese do it, we can't do it, because their currencies are convertible and has demand across the world.
Well, this is probably the last question, because otherwise they'll have a fit in the control room. Nevertheless, it's a tough one. So I'll ask the question. You can answer if you like, because I get paid anyway. I'm asking the questions, all right? Now then, the question is this. It's a statement. Thank God that you're not running the country. Or would you like to run the country?
I mean, we can, look at the results from this episode of MMT and ISI.
So okay.
So, I mean, there is always evidence. You see, policy, evidence-based policy is what matters. You can't just.
So you're going to wait and see?
No, there is no wait and see. I told you what everybody is saying. I am not. I am no. I'm just a technically knowledgeable person in this.
Right.
And what I'm saying is what everybody else around the world
also subscribe to?
Are subscribing to, and that is, we got to face the issue. Denial is not a strategy.
Denial is not a strategy, but the time is now right for the primetime news from News First. Thank you for watching. Take care, and as always, God bless you.